Hello, my name is Mordred Viking, and I'd like to welcome you to this stream of Hearts of Iron 4, where we are playing as Australasia. Now, those of you who saw the previous Twitch stream, you will have seen that we'd gotten a lot further than we have right now. This is the very beginning of the game, and that's because I did a very quick update. I've actually built a mod for myself now, which does a thing that you've seen before, but it's now actually modded, because I have a feeling that's what was causing me compatibility issues previously. So I now have my subscriber divisions actually modded in. So what I am going to do is
Where's next, sir?
delete basically our entire army. Don't need them. And we're going to rebuild them, one with actual unit names,
Next, sir?
and two using much smaller division sizes. So, start out with just garrisons? I think we'll start out with just a bunch of garrisons. So that's 12 divisions. I think it is 12 that we started with, so this is going to leave us with a couple of gun surplus and actually have full divisions as opposed to much reduced. We're not going to be using any artillery, not going to be using any support equipment, nor any interwar bombers. We could use naval bombers. I'm not going to use close air support, their range is too small. You know what, I think I'm just going to build naval bombers. Or maybe one of each. Yeah, one of each, let's do that. Then we also have some dockyards, which are just going to be mass-producing convoys for the time being. And then national focuses, so we will need to go through and do the elections again. So we're going to be trying to go for the syndicalists, probably, rather than the totalists. Even though the totalists have an absolutely amazing production boost. The other thing, of course, is that we now know the syndicalists get less stuff than the Australasian Guard or the AFM. The AFM did pretty well in that poll that we did last time. But I'm kind of intrigued by the syndicalist game now. So the other thing we probably need to do is reform the state of the army. That would get us more experience, so I could reduce the number of men in our divisions to 5. Or we could go for the extra research, or we could go for the state of the economy. The state of the economy was the 2 industrial techs, which actually weren't that useful because it's not construction tech. So I think I'm going to go state of the army first, to get the experience to reform our divisions, and then research. Or should we go research first, because we don't need to do this yet. We haven't had any of the bad things occur. Oops, that's not research. That's research. Technological advancement will be the cornerstone of our future success. A recent Royal Commission has advised the government to establish a department to ensure such research is coordinated across the country. And then next up we need to build stuff. So I think we're going to get to level 7 in all of those areas. And then research. So we definitely want to get electronic computing, construction, and basic machine tools, I think. And with that, I think we're basically ready. I've not sorted out the Air Force or the Navy, but I don't think that matters so much just yet. Does Kaiserreich still lag like hell? No, it's gotten a lot better. It still slows down a lot, but I wouldn't say it lags. Status of the Confederation. Formed in 1924 as a result of the Consolidation of Resources Act, the Australasian Confederation is a combination of the British Australasian Dominions, Australia and New Zealand, as well as the territories of the British New Guinea and Fiji. The years since the Welsh Creek have brought great change and hardship. The war strained both society and the economy, which in Australia manifested itself in the short-lived Melbourne Commune. Although disowned by the then ruling Labour government and put down by demobilised Australian Imperial Force veterans, this resulted in the implementation of the emergency protocols, the suspension of elections, and the appointment of William Birdwood as the Governor-General. Then, the British Revolution of 1925 shook the empire to its core, and Australasia was unable to prevent the loss of territories to the Germans. More than 10 years on, the situation is still unstable as the economy remains stagnant and domestic dissent continues to grow with Birdwood, alongside his ally Billy Hughes' Nationalist Party barely holding things together. And hello everyone, hello. Good to see you all. Hello. I need some tea. Can't be ruling a fraction of the British Empire without tea. Is this the path where New Zealand gets out with Canada? Yes. So we quit the Entente, New Zealand quits the Entente, but then eventually will rejoin it. causing no end of headaches for us. And basically an extremely early war, which we need to try and hold out in. Just watching the steam from my tea just blowing across my keyboard because of all the fans I have set up. Why am I drinking tea on such a hot day? It's madness. Mad dogs and Englishmen. Elections in the Antipodes were suspended by the emergency protocols enacted in 1923, which also led to the dissolving of the autonomy of the separate New Zealand Parliament. However, elections are now set for March this year after Stanley Bruce successfully campaigned for their reintroduction. Governor-General Birdwood was forced to take this concession when Bruce defeated Hughes for the leadership of the Nationalist Party. Bruce's decision not to act as an unelected Prime Minister resulted in the expulsion of his faction from the Nationalist Party, and Hughes's recall as Prime Minister. However, the public would not accept the government reneging on its commitments. Australasia can ill afford a repeat of 1923 as the spectre of Melbourne remains fresh in the minds of many. Been looking at Canada game. Anyone know if Great Britain can bring the Commonwealth under their direct rule? You mean direct rule as in annexing everything to Great Britain? No. But you can certainly join the Entente faction and possibly even become faction leader. The problem with... Oh wait, are we talking... Kaiserreich or vanilla? Kerensky's dead. Long live Kerensky. Kaiserreich. The problem with establishing the United Kingdom is that their tree is quite big and you generally get it fairly late. So expect to be spending quite a long time building up again, like an extra year or two, before you can actually do anything actively. That was the problem I had in my Canada game. Today, the nation is celebrating the Confederation of Australasia, and while the Confederation was not voluntary, having been initially formed by the British Invocation of the Conservation of Resources Act in 1924, it still brought many benefits to both Australia and New Zealand, as such is the common belief. Or such is the common belief. Crowds are lining the city streets in one side of the country to the other in order to celebrate the occasion. Advance Australasia Fair. Gain some stability. What do I think of Kaiserreich's poor resource balance? It could definitely do with another look over. And one of the things I have to say I really dislike about Kaiserreich is the fact that you can't use infrastructure to boost production. Or at least there need to be other ways of increasing production, because resources become really short later on. Like, for everyone. The state of Victoria has been hit by heavy bushfires in the northeast and the southwest. Because of intense heat and drought over the last few years, much of rural Victoria has dried up, leaving plenty of fuel for the flames. The fires at this point are so incredibly intense that the ash and smoke can be seen from New Zealand. Firefighters with the aid of state government are currently trying to combat the disaster, with flames already threatening several major cities and causing considerable panic. So one of those guys can be finished, and also I should probably change your icon so I can actually identify who you are at a glance. And then these ones are the artillery. And these, whoops, are just the regular old infantry, aren't they? You can keep the infantry icon. That's fine. The passing of George V. The ousted King of Britain, George V, has finally succumbed to the illness that plagued him since the revolution swept through the home isles. His son, Edward, has ascended the throne of the British Empire, including that of the Australasian dominions. While many in Australasia mourn, there are others for whom the King's death has resurrected memories of the Welsh Creek and the disaster of Gallipoli in particular, and they have taken to the streets to demand a separation of the nation from the British Crown as well as the Entente Alliance. Edward VIII has been crowned King of Britain. Jolly good. Two Sicilies is really fun. Two Sicilies I did very, very recently and I enjoyed it. And they just received a slight overhaul, actually. A lot of their later focuses are now actually decisions. Like the Risorgimento, wherever those are. The old order. This stuff. Bushfires are finally extinguished. The fires in Victoria have finally been extinguished thanks to the efforts of the local firefighters as well as overdue dense rainfall. This victory has come at a cost of 71 lives and over 1,000 homes destroyed, and the burning of almost 135,500 hectares of land. Currently, Judge Leonard Stretton has been selected to lead a royal commission into what led to the disastrous fires, though many suspect farmers or grazers in rural areas to be responsible due to their long-standing practice of burning brush to clear new land. Invitation to the Imperial Conference of 1936. Canada has invited us to the Imperial Conference of 1936 to discuss matters relating to matters of the British Empire. It would not do if the Australasian Confederation did not have a voice at the conference. Haven't played Kaiserreich since the Saudi split, so anything new happened since then. Yeah, a bunch of new people like the West Indies Federation have got focuses, most of South America's got focuses, Middle Africa has focuses, Germany now has a focus tree if they get kicked out of Europe. Germany in exile. Quite a lot. Like, oh, and Scandinavia. They've all got focuses now as well. Including Iceland, interestingly. The Dutch have a focus tree, which is really good. Like, really, really good. The goal of the Empire. The Prime Minister of Canada gave a rousing speech of retaking Great Britain from the so-called Union of Britain. The British Empire cannot be called British without liberating our fellow Britons, be they English, Welsh or Scottish, from the horrors and tyranny that exists within the Union of Britain. Great Britain will be liberated and free. I wonder what happens if I say it's not in our interests. Other than, obviously, we lose political power. But I wonder if it makes, like, the Civil War less strenuous. 3 cheers for the Empire. Rah, rah, rah. The Indian Empire. Negation cities, let the money flow. The delegate from Delhi has stood up and delivered a stirring speech about how he must aid them in liberating the rest of India from the chains of the anarchists and the traitorous princes that broke up the crown jewel of the empire. The delegate also spoke for some time on the trade benefits from the Entente if India was to be united, and how it would play a key role in retaking Great Britain from the traitors. Should escort carriers be in the game? They are. They're not in vanilla, but they are in this. And yes, I think that this system is awesome and they should definitely make it over to vanilla. The Fifth Anglo-Afghani War. After the Welsh Creek, the British Raj collapsed into turmoil and warfare. The neighbouring kingdom of Afghanistan took advantage of this. Naughty, naughty. Manoeuvres in the Carpathians. The Treaty of Bucharest in 1918 officially ended the Welsh Creek for Romania. But at what cost? The delegate from the West Indies Federation spoke today about the need for investing in the various dominions, stressing that the British dominions need a strong economy in order to take back Great Britain from the anarchist traitors that took control of the country. The Empire needs these investments. The final speaker of the day, our delegate from Australasia, stands up and speaks of the need for a scientific investment. The economy needs modern science in order to keep pace and not stagnate, while the military needs the most modern weapons to take back India and the home islands. And thus it is concluded. On the 3rd of February 1936, the Berlin Stock Exchange stopped sinking. It plunged. Mein Gott. The conference is over. The Imperial Conference in 1936 is now over. With it over, we can now focus on building on putting into practice the decisions that came about at the conference. There is hope that perhaps the conference marks a dawn in a new era for the Dominions and a strengthening of bonds, but only time will tell. We are still doing Syndicalist, yes. I'm determined to make it work. Crap, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to change your names to subscriber divisions. But apparently I can update it here, so it's all good. I love the fact that this is just automated now. So helpful. Electoral gridlock in France. The Commune of France is the world's leading syndicalist nation, united as a federation of city communes and directed by the Comité de Salut Public, the chief executive. Blah 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 blah. It was so important, in fact, that none of the 4 factions could acquire a majority. Much like before the election, a coalition must be found. But how will this change the shape of the commune's policies? Only the men in the CSP itself? No. Don't want to do either of those just yet because we are trying to become more syndicalist. Australasian Research Council. Done. And we still have a month before the election. And now I do kind of feel like we need the state of the army. Our ground forces must be a new priority, promoting these generals who can bring the greatest benefit in reforming the methods for the sake of the nation. What are you saying we're short on? Manpower. A special conference for the Labour Party. Today, the Australasian Labour Party convened a special session in Sydney where the former Premier of New South Wales, Jack Lang, was readmitted into the party after having been excluded for 5 years. Social democracy increases, stability decreases. No, we're going to save political power for when the era of struggle occurs. Because it will, and it'll be bad. Although, one thing I would like to do is a military chief who's defensive. School of Defence, for example, match entrenchment plus 10, land fort construction speed, or recruitable population, infantry, attack and defence could also be good. And then the division organisation and recovery rate could also be good. I think the Chief of Mass Combat is going to be good because with the Anzac modifiers we can get, we can boost our infantry division and attack a lot. And there's defense. Division defense plus 10, supply consumption minus 10. Static defense, division attrition, entrenchment speed, and division defense. Or that. Either elastic defense or static defense. I do like the idea of the entrenchment speed and division defense plus the School of Defense, which allows you to entrench more. That could definitely be interesting. Get your troops from New Zealand to Australia and train all of them. You know we'll need every advantage you need. We have no troops. We have no troops currently. I disbanded every single one of them. Peace deal has been signed between Sardinia and Afghanistan. Oh, it's just the Entente in Afghanistan. The Australasian Guard. Originally formed in 1925, the Australasian Guard is a staunchly nationalist and jingoistic movement, which traces its roots back to the paramilitary organisation the League of National Security, comprised of former servicemen returning from the Weltkrieg with the backing of influential Australasians. Many of these men helped put down the 1923 Melbourne Commune. In the years following the Melbourne Uprising, the Guard has continued to support the government, with many supporters joining the expanded security forces available to the Governor-General and assisting in suppressing the left-wing activities. The coming return to democratic rule has caused an upset amongst the far right, however, who fear that the re-emergence of the long-suppressed Labour movement and the Nationalist Party, divided as it is, will be unable to maintain the status quo. Due to these factors, the Guard's leader, Eric Campbell, has decided it will take part in the elections of the Centre Party, despite their not inconsiderable levels of popular support. At present, it is unsure what impact they will have. So national populism increases, stability decreases. Again. Wait for the Civil War before picking anyone they may well desert. Yeah, I'm doing that. It's a good suggestion. Only thing I might try to do is change my economy law as and when that becomes available. When does that become available? 15% war support, so we actually need another 2%. Tibet has joined the Great Khanate. A shared hatred for the Markleek has led Tibet into joining Baron Sternberg's faction. The first free elections in over a decade, which many are calling Bruce's election, look set to return a majority for the United Australasia Party. However, Labour and the Country parties are campaigning vigorously, while the Nationalists struggle to retain their core vote, with the left-leaning AUP and the right declaring for the Guard Centre Party. Many are, at least, grateful that Campbell's Centre Party seemingly has no chance of actually winning, though it seems likely they will make a good showing. Well, we wanted Australasia's Labour Party, which is the Social Democrats. John Curtin. Okay, so we have a couple more days for the State of the Army, and then we will need to start working on victory for the Syndicalists. Where is my manpower going to? That's actually quite a good question. I don't think I'm losing it. I think I just never had it in the first place for this unit. Although we are going to be regaining some when this finishes and I change my division template. Australasian Guard in the election. The Australasian Guard has emerged from the election far stronger than when it went in. Eric Campbell's Centre Party, while failing to make many parliamentary seats, did manage to secure a large percentage of the popular vote, mostly at the expense of the Nationalists. Despite this, the lack of a coherent strategy as well as hostile media's reception were clear hindrances for them. I think I'm going to turn on the default soundtrack as well. Expand the repertoire a little bit. Any units taking... I have no units, so no. The ACTU makes its move. The Australasian Labour Party National Executive met today in Canberra after being swept into office in an unexpected result. John Curtin now has to decide which direction to take the party and the nation, however. There is a schism already opening between the different wings of the party. Jack Lang and the moderate right wing of the party are up against the revolutionary left, consolidated around the Australasian Council of Trade Unions. The ACTU wants to seize this opportunity to enact real syndicalist policies throughout Australasia, form a republic in the memory of the Melbourne Commune, and break from the imperialist entente. Lang wishes to expel these radicals from the party, maintaining our place in the empire. Curtin must make a choice, break his party, or lead a revolution. The ACTU seizes control, declare the syndicalist republic. It's fine, everything's fine. It's fine, victory for syndicalists. Death of Pope Pius XI. I'm really hoping that the war with New Zealand doesn't kick off before this is finished. Although we do have a little bit of time before anything major actually occurs. The delegate from the socialist nations and political movements around the world gathered in Paris today for the latest in a series of world congresses. While the mantle of the Third Internationale has been taken up by the Communards after the Russian Civil War, the ideological tenor of the event promises to be very different, with syndicalist parties being the newly dominant force of the far left. ACTU seeks temporary chairman. While the ACTU prepares for its first Congress, one will determine the future direction of the syndicalist Australasia, there is much postponing behind the scenes for the election of the temporary chairman. The holder of the role will, in effect, have control over the government's day-to-day running. More so, in fact, than the Prime Minister. The moderate syndicalist supports the well-known Fred Patterson for the position, though J.B. Miles has been gaining a great deal of steam with his calculated speeches and rhetoric. So... Fred Patterson stays in place. He's a syndicalist. Or J.B. Miles comes in. He's a totalist. No, we are staying with the syndicalists because I want to have that awesome encryption-decryption bonus. Okay, first technology. Let's continue with the mechanical computing. Is New Zealand going to split? State of the Army, done. Good. So what I want to do now is edit the garrison. We're going to remove one unit of soldiers from this. And then we're just going to save this. And hopefully that's given you enough manpower. And then we're going to deploy these guys.
Orders, sir.
11 divisions required for this. We'll have you training up while we can get this done. Is Wrangel in charge? No, I must admit I sneakily changed the options. Oh, he is in charge anyway, but he is not set to always seize power anymore. However, the Soviet Civil War is supposed to trigger always, because I thought we were playing a syndicalist. It'd be kind of fun having a Soviet Union again. Potentially, which we can try to manipulate. Right, and now I need to choose a new national focus. So, we can choose to empower the ACTU, we can invite the British advisors, or we can purge the army. We're going to start purging the army right now. The first threat we face is from within. The army is replete with monarchist supporters and those who would stand against the workers. Even if this means a time of readjustment, we must reform the military and sack any and all of its leaders who refuse to support us. Papal Conclave. We have got Pope Stephen. Ooh, that's something a bit different. It was Stephen, who is like the super nice Pope. Like the mass army Pope. Who could go down people's rule, potentially, I guess. Oh, that's something I should have done, is I should have tried to make the Papal States form the Roman Empire. It's something I've never seen occur. Mark Leake has declared war on Mongolia. And we never got to the war support levels. That's a little unfortunate. Improved worker conditions, I think, would be a phenomenal idea. Or do I? Well, public support would improve our party popularity by 5%. I think I'm going to do both. Both.
Orders,
Hey,
sir.
Tanko. Alright, so all of them are at least regulars now, which is good. And still no uppityness from New Zealand. Ion Idris, the Cattle King. The leading Australian writer, Ion Idris, has today published his latest novel, The Cattle King. It follows the life of a recently deceased Sir Sidney Kidman, an entrepreneur and pastoralist who owned or co-owned large areas of land in Australia in his lifetime. Kidman became widely popular due to his support of the government, the Weltkrieg and the charitable organisations. The book looks set to be Australasia's bestseller for 1936, and many are drawing parallels between Kidman and the exiled White Raja, Charles Viner Brooke, which is sure to boost Brooke's popularity. Hey, Faceless. I'm actually tempted to go give a USA survival game a go. How do you mean by that? Playing as Hawaii. One of the other games I really need to do is Transamur. Trying to reform the true Russian Empire from their actual roots. I think it'd be kind of cool. What's their focus tree like? Yeah, I did remember it being relatively extensive.